Why the F should I listen to you?
So I basically got started with big budgets from a job that I had. So I had a job back in 2018 managing the Facebook ads for a skincare company doing 10 million a year in revenue. From there, I had a job at an agency where I was running a whole bunch of different accounts, ranging in spend from $100 a day to $5,000 a day. And since 2020, I've been on my own managing a variety of accounts. I think what I'm most proud of is taking those stores that are, at the 4 or 5 figure range when we start and getting them to 7 figures, which I've been able to do a few times in the past few years. And that's kind of been my business. Is I learned most of what I learned from working with, several dozen accounts in about 12 different industries.
Is my product a good candidate for meta ads?
So I like to start like kind of at the bottom line. Like, okay, so you're at the very beginning, you're getting sales. So people like the product. It's not a complete dud product, right? So I guess some other bottom line questions. What do your gross margins look like? So 50%. Okay. And what's the price point of the product? Actually, go to analytics for me. So right off the bat, right, I can already see one problem you're always going to face, and that's your low average order value, and people are only buying once. Like it's not a complete death sentence for paid traffic, but I'll put it to you this way. If Amazon is always 80% of your sales and you keep running the business like this, if Amazon is always the vast majority of your sales, yeah, that would not surprise me. It is not impossible. I'm running a successful campaign. Our average order value is 45 Canadian. So that's actually a little less than your current average order value. Right. And we're getting customers at about $20, but 50% return rate, right? So people are always coming back. They're always coming back. If you can break even or better on paid traffic, then all of that exposure was free. Let's get to the ad account.
How should I structure my ad account?
Okay. Oh man. I love this. I love this subject. It's like I've come to love it because of all the experience I've had. There is no one best ad campaign structure. And every single campaign structure that I've tested ever has always died at some point. Every single one. Now, I talked to Jason Brown on the forum. It's eLiquid is his name on the forum. And he agreed that all of the things that people are saying, especially if you buy a course or you watch like a YouTube video from some dropshipping guy, well, they tell you, oh, this is how you're supposed to structure your ads. You can do it their way, and it might work if your creative is good and you've got the right audience and all that stuff. But it's probably not going to make a difference if you do it a different way. With that said, it is important to understand how like ad sets and ad units actually work. And when you're setting up your ad set like this, where you have the different creatives in one ad set, what ends up happening is those ads will compete against each other for traffic. Now, traffic is delivered or determined on the ad set level rather than the ad level. It's on the ad level, Facebook wants to figure out which ads to show and where, right? So what does this mean, right? This means that unless you are separating your ad sets and your budgets, right, the ads will kind of compete against each other. Like I kind of call it gladiator school because you're getting all of the ads to compete against each other, right? Now the problem is Facebook will deliver based on what it thinks will do the best and not necessarily based on what will actually do the best. Problem is Facebook is a lot better at figuring that out than we are as ad buyers. So it can deliver ads pretty reliably, most of the time, not all the time. Like there are going to be days, and if you've been running ads a long time, you'll know that there are days where you wake up, look at yesterday's results, and you got nothing. And it's highly unusual. And then the next day you get nothing. And it's like, oh shit, I just spent $5,000 in 2 days and I got fuck all. What in the world just happened? I didn't touch nothing. I didn't change nothing. All this money just went away. How did that happen? Right? Well, it happened because of something that happened on the back end that you have no control over. Right? So in that situation, I just turn off the stuff that isn't working, duplicate it, and see if it runs and see if it works again. And about half the time that works. And if that doesn't work, then I just test, either old winners that I had to turn off before, or, well, I guess right? I kind of put them both, and new creatives as well, and see how well those do, right? So I wouldn't get too discouraged.
How do I know if my ad is a winner?
So obviously a winner will depend on the account. Now, there's a few things that an ad has to be in order to be classified as a winner, at least in e-commerce, D2C. Maybe it's a little different in other industries. Number one, it has to be profitable. It has to print more than it spends. That's number one, right? Number two, it has to be better than the vast majority of the other ads you're running, right? In that account. Right. And that makes a winner different for every account. Right. So I'll give you an example. There was one ad that I ran however many years ago that ended up getting, I don't remember what the exact ROAS was, but I remember what the click-through rate was. It was 12%. And it ran at 12% click-through rate, I think 2.5 to 3x ROAS, which for that business was actually very good. And it ran like that until it got rejected by Facebook. So that was like about $100,000 later. And so $100,000 brought in $250. Right. But on that very same account, I had an ad that had the same performance as far as ROAS, 3% click-through rate. What's going on here? So the first ad, the winner with 12%, was clickbait. Plain and simple. It was just clickbait. People clicked because they wanted to click. It was interesting. The second ad was a story about something that people would be interested in, something that people in that niche would be particularly interested in. And as a result, our conversion rates on the two were completely different. And they averaged out to be the same. So, number one, a winner has to be profitable. Number two, it has to be better than your other ads, right? And number three, it has to last. Now, when I say last, I don't mean it has to last for a year. There are some ads, they're very few. There are some ads you can run for a year plus and get no hiccups, right? With turning on and off because it burns out, right? It'll burn out and then you turn it off for a few months and you turn it back on and performance is right back up, right? So that's...
Do ads burn out cause of the algorithm?
Algorithmic. It's people, right? So many people have seen the ad over and over again.
How does the learning phase work, anyway?
As far as the whole learning thing, because that is also very important. So on a technical level, the way it works is Facebook will drop these, think of it like a pond, right? So when you start up an ad set of any level, it doesn't matter, right? When you start up an ad set, Facebook will drop its lure into the pond, right? It starts the learning phase, right? And every so often during the learning phase, it will drop the lures into different parts of the pond. And over that time in the learning phase, it'll get more and more fish. It'll start to know where the fish will congregate. And when it gets out of the learning phase, it drops its lure and it keeps it there. Of course, what does Facebook say? It says you got to get 50 conversions, right? So if you don't get those 50 conversions in a week, it'll say learning limited, right? It'll have the yellow bar, right? Learning limited. And that just means it's continuing to plop its lures throughout the pond that you've set, right?
Why is scaling an ad account so difficult and risky?
When you think about an ad that's like a real big winner, the bigger the winner, the bigger the scale it can operate and still be profitable, right? Because scale is always your limiter, right? At a certain point, like you get diminishing marginal returns because you start to get people out, out, out. Like, so you got your core audience here, and you got these like concentric circles. So you start to get people from wider and wider portions out in that circle, right? So those people are more and more different from your ideal customer, right? So, and that's why scaling is so difficult. People will try, oh, we'll turn up the budget, turn up the budget. Oh man, it stopped working. Well, yeah, no shit, it stopped working. Because one, every time you turn up the budget, it resets the learning phase, right? And number two, every time you turn up the budget, you're reaching more people. And of those people you're reaching, only a certain percentage are going to give a fuck about your offer, right?
Facebook sent traffic to one ad, but the other ones have a lower cost per purchase, cost per CLICK. What gives?
Why was one kept on and 2 and 3 turned off? Facebook just predicts what will work, and it will predict it based on all sorts of signals that are in the back end.
What should I be measuring to see my ad account performance?
So one thing I would always recommend is custom views to show the most important metrics. Okay, so link clicks, right? Okay, landing page views, adds to cart, checkouts, purchases, purchase value, right? So now if you're running video ads, that's video views, 3-second views, hook rate, which is 3-second views divided by impressions. So I guess I can add impressions, reach, and frequency.
How much should I be spending on ads when just starting out?
All right, so I'm going to answer one of the questions. So one of the questions a lot of people have is, how much should I be spending, right? And my answer that I always give is 30 times your break-even CPA every day. And you're just about there, right? So there you go. Now I know you would break even at what, like 17 pounds, but I generally say, okay, average order value times 30, right? That should be your monthly budget to test with. The more the merrier, as long as it's making profit, right? Because the more you spend, the more data you get. And the more you spend, the more ads you can test.
How many ads should I be testing?
Like, you've got 3 ads here, right? That's okay. I would probably bump that up to 5, right? And then do, 5 to 10 every week. But the problem is, if you're doing 10 at this budget, you're not going to get nearly enough data for all of them. So I think 5 is a good number here, right? You can have it set up like that, and that's fine. It'll just make the ads compete against each other. Or you can split the ad budget evenly amongst the 5 ads and see how they do. So that's a more scientific kind of test. And that works if you're pretty confident that they're all winners and that they'll all do well, right? And that's all in ad set budget. But at the beginning, I generally recommend to put, ads in one ad set so that Facebook is forced to compete them against each other.
What you're saying seems to go against Facebook's recommendations.
Facebook and Google and all these other platforms have always wanted you to just spend as much money as possible and not worry about it. And they start to take away more and more and more control, right? And one of the things that they did was they started to take away audience options. So we used to be able to make all sorts of crazy different audiences and, rent audiences to different companies and do all this stuff. But I noticed that the scientific way wasn't really doing any better. So I decided to split it out. I split one with a bunch of ad sets and one where I just had one ad set and just put everything together, and they didn't perform any different. So I'm like, okay, well, clearly Facebook knows something we don't. Then I started working with smaller accounts that didn't have the level of data that account had. And I noticed the same exact thing.
So you don't think there is a best ad account structure?
And I'm like, okay, well, clearly Facebook's algorithm is pretty smart, but it's not that smart. Right? And we do find that one of the aspects of a winner is often that it gets a lot of engagement to the point where the algorithm favors the ad so that the CPMs are much cheaper. Right? So if you have an ad that gets a lot of engagement, right, but isn't necessarily salesy, but is getting a really high ROAS compared to what else you're doing, and then you look at the conversion rate and you find it's really low, right, and you see the CPM is really low, then you're like, okay, Facebook is rewarding that ad because Facebook likes what that ad is doing for its platform. I don't know what the optimal ad account structure is. I just assume that there isn't one and consider, okay, if it's a set of winners, then I'll run them each in their own ad sets and let those ad sets figure out where to put those winners, right? Who to show them to, right? I want to see these ads. So I just want to see these ads first, then we'll go to your current campaigns. Nice. So that's testimonial. Yes. Okay, scroll down. Okay, you're just running feeds? Yeah, okay.
What do you mean by angle?
No, that's a great question. Like, it sounds like a dumb question, like, and it probably feels like a dumb question to ask. It's actually a very intelligent question, and the answer to it is like I think I posted my response, but basically an angle can mean anything, right? It's just a different way of advertising your product, right? Like if you think angle, think different way of advertising your product, right? So that could be anywhere. Now to answer your question, should we test outdoor sauna versus indoor? Should we test X versus Y? I would say write down all of those ideas of things you want to test, right? Just write them down and then ask yourself, okay, what does that actually have? Does that have an impact on how they use the product or who will use the product, right? And if yes, kind of put it up in your priorities, right, for testing, at least on the creative side. Because creative testing never really ends. You're always going to be doing it. You're going to be doing it every week until you just say, fuck Facebook, right, or whatever, right?
Have you ever just given up on trying to make meta ads work?
And it always sucks to tell a client, hey man, I don't think Facebook is the right way for you, but I've definitely done that several times where I'm like, look, the reason we're not getting results is not because our ads are necessarily bad, it's because the business model doesn't support it, right? And that's not always a bad thing. If anything, it can be a great thing because it saves you months of headache and thousands of dollars in ad spend. But I kind of figured that your questions were not just about, oh, how do we actually do Facebook, but ultimately, is Facebook worth it? That's really the kind of the underlying, question. Like, look, it's business, right? This is a business decision. Like, if this is not the right platform, I want to know, and I want to know quickly so I can focus on the thing that is right? And that's a perfectly intelligent way of going about it.
It all seems tough and confusing, but then I see other companies and agencies that seem to make it look easy, ...
That's actually why I wanted to record the call, because I know that there's thousands of people just like you who are selling something that is valuable, that people like, right? People are buying it and they're liking it. They're leaving good reviews, or they're happy about it, right? And you like the product and it works, right? I assume, right? And if that is the case, right, that people like the product and it works, right, then all you need to do is figure out how are you going to get your product in the hands of the people that will get the most value out of it, right? And so to kind of repeat your question about perspective, it's like, okay, well, am I going in the right direction? How does it compare to other companies? And I kind of like, it's kind of dichotomous, right? I say on one hand, don't necessarily compare yourself to other companies because they didn't start where you started. Like that skincare company I told you about, not the one I'm currently working with, but the one I worked with as an employee, like they started with about 250 grand of funding from just the founder. He just put his own money in, and 100,000 of that was on ad spend, like right away. He's like, fuck it, I'm going to start off and I'm going to start spending a lot of money on ads. And he already knew how to run ads because he ran a super affiliate agency where he had teams of people just like me running a bunch of different ad accounts. He started with a bunch of experience in advertising on a bunch of different platforms and having spent up to $3 million a month on Facebook advertising, knowing how Facebook works, knowing the skincare industry, and being a very good copywriter, all that stuff. He had all of that, right? It was just like the building blocks over several years, right? And You, on the other hand, might not have all of that. You don't have the cash, you don't have the Facebook ads experience and whatnot. And if I could have any goal as far as, what could I help with, is can I get you to, can I save you months of time and thousands of dollars on just struggling on your own, right? And unfortunately, I don't have a paid offer for this because I just generally do it. It's done for you. You charge like, $2,000 a month or whatever, and I run your ads for you. But that's not where you're at, and it just doesn't make sense for you. So,
how do you get winning ad ideas? Is there something I'm missing?
That ad that got a 12% click-through rate, I'll tell you exactly what it was. It was a man in like old woman drag. And it made millions, and it made 200. And that ad, before it got banned, made $250,000 before that ad got deleted. It was just it was a man in old lady drag, and the headline was, "Why do some women age faster than others?" Pretty funny. And like in the marketing team like hated me for running that ad. They kept saying, "Can you please stop running that ad? Can you please stop running that ad?" And I'm like, no. It's making money. It's paying your salary. Like, no, I'm not going to stop running it. And the CEO was with me. He's like, no, he's not going to stop running it. So, and that's not to say that, a good ad doesn't require effort, because on one hand, I tested 100 ads that didn't work. On the other, on yet another hand, there are some ads where I've put a lot of effort into it and had a good idea that it would work, right? And they did work. And yet on the other hand, it's like 5 fucking hands. On the other hand, I put a lot of effort into an ad and had it not work. I know that the secret to ad success is just testing a lot of them and seeing what bites, right? Why don't I just, spin up 50 ads in Canva and just slap. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. There's that dichotomy, right? You still got to have good ads that people want to click on, that make people interested, that grab people's attention, right? There's still those elements. And I was talking to Mitch C on the forum a few weeks ago, and the tip he had was just go on YouTube and look at the YouTube homepage. They've got it to a science, right? They know what gets clicks. Every ad that's ever run is now public, right? If you can catch it while it's running, right? So you can learn what other people are doing just by seeing what is being done currently, right? You don't need to think that hard about it. Okay, cool. I've seen the ads. Let's see your current campaign. Let's see what you're currently running. This is very niche. Like, you can get, when you're getting niche, you can get huge winners. Like, and when I say huge winners, I don't necessarily mean at scale. I mean where the ROAS is really high and the conversion rate's really high and the click-through rate's really high. When it's really, really niche, you can get there. Like, you can get those 10% click-through rates. You can get those 7-8% conversion rates. It's possible. It's been done. It's been done by members of the forum, right? People have done it, right? Especially when it's niche. When it's broad, okay, broader, you're getting lower click-through rates, lower ROAS, but you're doing it at such a big scale that you're willing to take it, right? And some companies are so well-funded that they'll just lose money on the front end. But if you know you can't do that.
So how long does it take to figure out if an ad is a winner?
So I will tell you, like 99% of winners are winners from like day 1 and day 2. It's a good start. Unfortunately, you don't have enough data to say whether or not that is a typical result, or it was a fluke, or you just don't have enough data to say. And it is what it is. But at least on the money side, right, what that was doing for you. And if you know that you can't stomach, losing money on the front end, then yeah, turn it off, test some new ads.
How do I decide what to test first?
And I guess kind of a tangential point. It's like, oh, well, what ads should I test? Which angles should I test? And the answer is try as best as you can to make a reasonable judgment on what you think would have the biggest impact in the eyes of someone scrolling who's in your market, right? And this is an art rather than a science. So figuring out stuff to test, right? The testing itself is pure science, right? It's pure science. But figuring out what to test Oftentimes, it just comes from looking at a bunch of ads in different industries, right? So I say don't copy your competitors, but I also think you should look at them and see what they're doing. You just don't know if it's going well, right? You don't know how well your competitors are doing. And I would also say just, okay, look at the YouTube homepage and also look at organic content in the niche. What are people promoting? What kind of bottles are people, raving about, right? Why are they raving about them?
Is there a proper way I should be testing things? What do I focus on?
Expensive clicks, though. Damn. Those are some expensive clicks. What's the CPM on these? Okay. My conclusion, at least since 2021, around the time the privacy stuff hit, my conclusion was don't try to science it all that hard unless you're running big budgets. Focus on the creative, focus on the landing page, focus on the checkout flow, focus on those three things. And on the creative side, yes, you're looking at multiple metrics. You're not just looking at, click rate, hook rate, frequency, purchases. You're also looking at, how much does it cost? What are the, what's the conversion rate compared to the other ads? What kind of engagement is it getting? I also don't look at quality rankings. I don't give a shit. Like quality ranking, conversion rate, I don't look at any of that. It's not a key performance indicator. It doesn't really tell me anything. It doesn't give me anything actionable, so I just don't look at it.
Meta has been pushing Advantage Plus on me, but people say it doesn't work.
So the main advantage of Advantage Plus will come when you're spending enough to exit the learning phase. That's really where the advantage comes in. With that said, keeping it broad, I think that's something you could test down the line, testing a broad audience versus a more specific audience. But even then, it won't be super scientific because the specific audience will be contained in the broad audience. And then if you try to exclude the specific audience from that broad audience, it really does change who you're targeting. So it might just completely whack out your results. There's a lot of confounding variables. So with audience testing, I would test, one versus the other with separate budgets in an ad set budget optimization, and they will compete against each other to an extent, but that's kind of okay because we want to see which one is able to hit that, hit that good spot in the pond, so to speak, and how quickly can it do it. So yeah, I would say turn off Advantage Plus for now. Do it just like this, like you got it here, because it might make a difference. I don't know. But because it is broad, it shouldn't make so much of a difference that Advantage Plus is going to, because another advantage of Advantage Plus is that you can, when you have Advantage Plus on, you can specify to check to go for new customers or existing customers. But that doesn't apply to you. So, because you really don't have very many existing customers to begin with, and your existing customers wouldn't buy anyway. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. I would honestly just do it this way.
So are you saying that I should use more specific audience, targeting, with interests and whatnot? How do I specify my ideal customer?
I have my doubts. So, my 2 cents, I have my doubts that you will be able to successfully target them just by, coming up with detailed targeting. I think that your thing, you could say people who are interested in saunas, maybe, people who are interested in, athletics, people who are interested in who goes into the sauna, right? Joe Rogan, Huberman, Brian Johnson, influencers that go into the sauna. So you could definitely test that out if you wanted to, but I've found that calling people out in the ad is a bit more effective, and it just takes a few days for Facebook to figure it out. But Facebook does figure it out, and it figures it out because it's looking for those signals. It's looking for signals of interest. So are people interested in it? Are they looking at it? Are they clicking it? Are they commenting, liking, sharing it? Are they, taking action on the website? Are they going to the cart? Are they, checking out? Are they purchasing, right? How much time are they spending on the site? These are things that Facebook keeps in mind. Are they bouncing right back to Facebook? What are they doing on Facebook afterwards? That's the stuff you don't get to know, right? That's the stuff you and I don't get to know. But these are the kinds of things that Facebook is, crunching their numbers on. If you were spending, 10 times what you were spending, I would say, oh yeah, we should split out the different audiences and commit this much budget to each and, measure it. Okay, we run it on Monday, we measure it on Thursday, and then we do our fill or kill decision on Thursday and all that stuff. We measure, we use a A/B test feature, blah blah blah, right? And yes, that's all important, right? But at the beginning, you just don't have it. You just don't have the cash. And to dump the cash on it at this level would be a waste because there's still things you haven't learned.
Okay, you yapped for long enough. ... What should I do next?
Right. Okay, so I would say as far as so for the next test, my recommendation is use this same audience that you have for this. So new ad set, new campaign, new ad set. And then I would say test. So your control is ad number 1 here, the one that got 9 purchases. That's your control, right? And then have 4 other ads, right? New ads, right? New ideas, whatever, choose your favorite ideas and test them, right? Whatever's your favorite right now, right? Because you don't know, I don't know, right? Nobody knows. God knows, maybe, but yeah, so use number 1 as control, 4 new ads, right? Non-advantage plus ad set. Same budget as don't increase your budget, don't decrease your budget. Same budget. Run it for 72 hours, so 3 days, and then look at the results. Mainly look at your clicks and your funnel numbers, right? Because I don't think your frequency is going to go very high. You're not running video ads, so I'm not looking at hook rate. I would also want to look at the engagement metrics, if any, right? Because it seems can you show ad preview for ad number 1, please? You got 1 share, and that's on Facebook feed. Yeah, so I'm not seeing crazy engagement here, right? So when you're doing like the optimization, right? If you wanted to do page post engagement, you get a ton of engagement. You get 1 million engagements, and it'll be super cheap, right? But when you're running to sales, what Facebook is doing is pointing you to people who buy things on Facebook. Another thing I've heard, and I think people stopped saying this years ago, but for years people were spouting like, oh, you should test lower funnel conversions. You should test add to cart and initiate checkout. You should test these things. Never found it to work. I've never seen it work. Just straight to the one you want. Yeah. Because when you'll test add to cart and you'll get a bunch of these numbers and you won't understand why you're not getting any conversions, but your CPC is really cheap and your CPMs are really cheap and you're getting all this traffic, but nobody's buying. It's not profitable. You'll be all confused. So don't do it. Just go straight to sales. I've only ever seen it work on Black Friday. Yeah, I don't know why, but that's just my experience. Like I've only tested, I don't know how many hundreds of campaigns. Right? And that is a limited experience because I've never sold a sauna bottle, right? I don't think I've sold, when I think of like one-time purchases, have I ever sold? Yeah, no, I've always focused on stuff that people are going to rebuy over and over again. Yeah, but I think that's just because of the nature of the business model. Like if you're selling like a one-time thing, right, then you've got to find a way to keep getting customers and to keep selling them more stuff, right? Now that it could honestly be as simple as what is it that Yeti and Stanley do? Like they got 1 million different colors, right? And they sell zillions, they sell Brazilians, and it's technically a one-time purchase, but I've seen, like, my parents swear by Yeti. They love Yeti tumblers. They've got like 6 of them, all in different colors. And like they'll ask me, I'll say, oh, what do you want for your birthday? He's like, oh, get me a Yeti. Like, another one? Yeah, but a different color. Okay.
Is there anything I can do to make my business more meta ads friendly?
So I guess this kind of goes to a more higher level discussion of Facebook ads and viability. It's kind of like to circle back to kind of close the loop. So Facebook, and I'm sure you've heard this before, I think I've already said it in the conversation, it generally works when you've got a high enough average order value and you've got repeat purchases and the people who buy an impulse. Those are like the three things that really make meta ads powerful, or rather, make a business a good fit for meta ads, right? Like if you actually look at those people who buy supplements, they just keep buying supplements and they keep buying them. They keep buying them. Like my boss from that skincare company, he's like that. Like he was the first person to tell me about Athletic Greens. I later worked for an affiliate of Athletic Greens. Fuck, their business model is crazy, and I'm glad that they've changed what they've done. But that kind of person is gonna buy all sorts of supplements for any imagined pain, and they'll just buy it, right? And just to try it, and they're not stupid, right? They're not. Well, most of them are. Some of them, I'm sure, are stupid, just for law of large numbers. But most of them are not stupid, and they understand what they're doing. It's like, but to them, it's like anything to get an edge, anything that could potentially help, right? Anything to reduce the likelihood of some disease, or make me feel better, and they're not shy about it, and they're gonna keep spending. Same with skincare. Skincare is a wonderful example because your skin, whether you like it or not, is just gonna keep aging. It's never gonna stop aging. It's gonna get more wrinkly. It's gonna get more spots. No matter how many creams you buy, that just is what it is. But the creams are gonna get those wrinkles to go away temporarily. They're gonna get the spots to go away temporarily, and it's gonna feel good, and your face is gonna feel soft, and people are gonna compliment you on your skin and all this stuff. So people buy it, and it's wonderful. The second reason is just pure curiosity, right? Just pure my skincare is okay, but maybe that one's better, right? I want to try it. I'm curious, like a new food, right? Or a new piece of clothing. It's like, I just want to try it. I want to see it, right? And the third reason, they just want to try the new thing, right? Novelty. It's like, oh, is this any good? And in a sense, it kind of looks like that curve I'm sure you've seen. It's like, oh, you got early adopters, and then you've got, blah, blah, blah. You got the laggards at the end, right? It's kind of like that. Now, for your product, you don't benefit from rebuys yet, right? And I guess the next thing I would say is calculate your overall marketing efficiency. So don't just look at these, whatever per purchase on Facebook, because Facebook lies. And they've been caught out lying so many times, so I don't even trust them anymore. So I trust them on reach, maybe, and I trust them on clicks if I can get that to corroborate with what's in my Shopify. So I would then just look at overall marketing efficiency, including Amazon spend, including, Facebook spend. Okay, how well are you doing? And if you reduce that Facebook spend, does that marketing efficiency, go up? Does it go down? Of course, I can't make this decision for you, and you might very well just make the opposite thing, and it might work out really, really well. What would I do? Would I run another Facebook campaign? And the answer is yes, but, right? So yes, I would run it, but I would look at it a bit further into the future, right? By that I mean I would run it, what's tomorrow, Friday? Yeah, I run it tomorrow, right? And do it the way I said, run the control and then run a few tests. Okay, maybe not tomorrow. Maybe it takes a little while to make the ads. So whenever you got the ads ready, just run them. But no video. You don't need to do video ads yet. I would definitely test one at not one. I would test several at some point because it is demonstrable, right? Like it's something that I could see a video ad doing really well. If you've got the situation right. It could be a skit. It could be all. There's so much you can do with video ads. You could really let your creative brain fly with video ads. But right now stills are okay because really what we're trying to get is the lowest hanging fruit, and that is kind of why I say look at it from a longer term perspective, right? Because what you're getting is several things. You're getting money, right, which will hopefully cover the ad spend, but you're also getting someone to say yes to buying your product, and they're also signaling that they're part of this culture. if there is such a thing as sauna culture, they're part of it, right? They're at least interested in it. I would indeed run those campaigns for the bottle, knowing that with every customer, you've got a point X, of a customer for, the next thing. Yeah, there's brand recognition, but I wouldn't worry too much about that right now. People forget brands. Brands exist in the eyes of people who have had an experience with your company. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. What I would concern myself with is, are the people that buy this gonna buy the next thing? You can let it run and accept that you're going to lose a little bit on the front end and keep it running just so that you have a steady stream of customers in, knowing that some of those customers are going to buy the next thing. Or you could say, well, it's not working. Let's focus on what's working. It's not all lost, and it could be actually it could end up being lucrative in the future, especially if you're able to release a product that, they're, going to rebuy and going to keep buying over and over again. But yeah, I mean, I would keep going. It seems that you've got something, all the things people are saying about Facebook ads. And that's really one of the hardest things, is that there are no real right answers. Like, there's no hard and fast rules. Like, I've heard, and I think this is true for the most part, it's like, oh, one channel, one avatar, one product, right? And that is true for the most part because it makes things simple, right? But if you're building a lifestyle brand, right, you might not have that luxury, right? You might have to sell quite a lot of different products and test them, bring them in, bring them out. I mean, some stores are selling, hundreds, even thousands of SKUs. And then you have people who are selling one SKU and doing really well. So there's really no hard and fast rule. So really, it's just about, what do I need to do to get these people to buy? And of course, you got to ask, is your total addressable market big enough anyway? Well, it's a bigger concentric circle, right? So there's the people who maybe aren't, super into sauna, but they do it because they heard it was good for them, right? And then in the circle, you got people who are really into it, who love it, who swear by it, right? But you also want to sell, stuff to the people, outside. Generally, you focus on the like, really what you're doing here with the Facebook ads is focusing on that really center circle, especially at this budget, because they're the lowest hanging fruit. They're the ones who are going to convert.
Do you have any ideas for angles to test?
You got to tell people, though. And your job right now is to tell people. Tell people, hey, if you're going into the sauna with a plastic bottle, you're harming your health. Don't do that. Yeah, you're going into the sauna for the health benefits. Why are you drinking microplastics and BPAs? That stuff stays in your system forever. What are you doing? I mean, so you wanted to ask what an angle is? That's an angle. I would generally start with one avatar and then do angles that would, correspond to them, just to make it easier, because you can get so caught in the weeds with testing, and people do complain about this quite a lot. It's like, I could test anything. There's a million and one different things I could test, but what should I test? And they get caught up in analysis paralysis, and it's like, oh, what do I do? And that's like, you really don't want to be in that spot. So like, one of the first things I might do so I would say test for the next thing, test 4 different angles to that one avatar against that control. But then, let's say none of them work and the control still wins. Test some variations on the control, right? Test some, I don't know, you could test different colors, you could test different headlines. There's a bunch of things you could do. But yeah, variations on your winner can be a great way to, kind of replicate performance, especially if your winner's burnt out. That's another piece of content. You're going into the sauna with your Sauny bottle, and everyone else is drinking from their dumb shiz, psh, ow, crinkled plastic bottles, just BPAs and, all this. And this other person has a regular one and it's hot, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, one guy's drinking from a protein shake and the protein's all curdled and it's nasty. There's so much you can come up with, and it's like, what if the funny angles don't work? And test something else, right? And if you just test creative, that's where really it's the hook anyway. If you're talking video, Like it's like that first few seconds of the video, that's what really gets people to stop scrolling. Like that's 80% of the work done for you, is just getting them to stop scrolling. And past that, like, because if you can't get them to stop scrolling, you can't get anything out of that. So you talk about the process of coming up with angles. It's basically just that, like just looking around, seeing ideas, and kind of formulating it all, letting your brain do the work, not really thinking super hard, just letting your brain do the work, right? And then you'll have an idea, one day you'll be out with your friends or, like doing literally anything else, and you just, oh shit, I gotta write this down. And you write it down and keep it for later. And it might be a winner. Happened to me? Yeah. Don't hold on to them too long, because then you'll get attached to them. You don't want to get, like, you want to kill your darlings. You want to make sure that, if something just doesn't make sense, like identify it quick. And then all the stuff that does make sense, run it, right? And hell, maybe run some stuff that doesn't make sense. I don't know. You just really never know. Like people are so, like, it's so like people respond to all sorts of stuff. Like people were talking about like, oh, can AI make really good ads? I'm like, well, I saw this one AI video that got 150 million views, so probably. So I mean, all machine learning models are just prediction machines, and that includes Facebook's algorithm, Facebook's ad delivery algorithm. It's just a prediction machine, and they're very, very good at it because they have a fuck ton of data, and they're certainly better at it than me or you or Nick Shackelford or whoever's the biggest ad buyer these days, right? Like Facebook has all that data, and their big brain can crunch all those numbers. But the problem is, at the end of the day, like we are the ones who have to test it, and we are the ones who are paying for it. You can learn paid ads from like how I learned was spending a lot of other people's money, millions of dollars of other people's money. It is a way. I mean, I get mad when I see all these like agency kids coming up and then like hiring some, shitty Indian freelancer who isn't even that good. And I'm like, so you're just selling what is garbage to all these people? Like, what are you doing, right? And some of them become successful, but most of them don't. And they wonder why. It's like, well, shit. Like, you haven't... I hate saying pay your dues because it sounds so trite, but it's like, I've made so many of these mistakes. I've made the mistakes that you're about to make, and I just want to make sure that you don't make them.
We talked at length about the ad account, ... Could you look at my landing page and see what could be improved?
The water bottle that stays cool in the sauna. So that's kind of your big... So you have two big testing points there. You've got the picture and you've got the headline, right? So that headline, the water bottle that stays cool in the sauna, is that what people really want? If you wanted to test different landing pages, what I might do is just duplicate that page and, change either the photo or the headline or the subhead, this above the fold section, right? And test. So I wouldn't necessarily do it A/B though. What I would do is I'd have separate ad sets, right? And they have different headlines, right, for the ads. And then I want the ad headline to match the headline as close as possible. It doesn't have to be exact because we are testing a bunch of headlines and it's not always going to be exact, but it has to at least rhyme. Not rhyme phonetically, but, rhyme as far as it makes sense that this is where you're going. Exactly. So if someone who's coming for the luxury sees this, they're like, it stays cool. Surely a thermos can do that too, right? And also that woman, I could barely see that it was a woman, first of all. So that's another thing you could test is whoever is in that photo, because it might just be a big muscly man who wants to be in the sauna. With that said, I would honestly replace this above the fold section with basically a photo carousel with the photo being used in a bunch of different things. But, that's just something you could test. That's an A/B. So that's something you A/B. Right? Carousel versus still. And then you just, see how well it goes. Free UK shipping. That's awesome. It is a sales page. That's fine. No, that's good. That's good. It's not a boring, just straight up PDP. Okay, move those reviews up. So maybe you could highlight, one of the ones where they show a picture in the sauna. I would probably put more FAQs, because I'm sure you have a bunch of questions that people get. Just slap them all in there. Okay, how long does shipping take? Return policy. Where is it based? Will it keep my water cold? What's the salt? Yeah, the made from is obviously very important. That's another angle you could test is the ingredients. Avoid BPA's, no BPA's, no heavy metals, no whatever else people are concerned with. Yeah, so you might want to ask someone who knows Amazon really well about that. I don't really have a recommendation.
I've heard horror stories about people getting banned from Facebook for no reason. What's going on?
Well, it's the AI, right? It's usually the AI, but it'll usually, if you get an ad rejected, that's generally the end of it. You send it in review, and then they say yes or no, and that's usually that won't usually get you banned. What will often get you banned is what you actually run to. So if you're running to a landing page that's selling some uncompliant stuff, and you keep doing it, they'll ban you for that. If your payment method gets flagged as fraud, they'll ban you. There's a bunch of. Sometimes you'll just get all your accounts banned, and that sucks. That happened to me once. That was awful. I always tell people to create business managers and invite me to the business manager, but I'm in a lot of different accounts, and I don't know what all those accounts are doing. I hope you got value out of this, because I could talk about this shit I could talk about this all day. So I'm gonna give you this, and I'm sure you do this. I mean, if you're going to the gym and bring your bottle and stuff, but why wouldn't you want to talk about your brand?